tremendous pleasure and privilege to introduce my friend Felia Salim, who I met when we were had both been students on the courses that the Bashara School hold in Indonesia each year. If you Google Felia Salim, you arrive first of all at the ASEAN 100 Forum, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Forum, where you will find a description of her work career, which is pretty much identical to the one printed in the programme. In fact, I have an idea of where you got it from, so I'm not going to repeat that because it's in your programme, you can read it. Felia is really one of the most senior people in banking and finance in Indonesia, all the more remarkable because she is, as you may notice, a woman. She began her education in economics, then political science, and then political economy with an intention to work in development. She found herself with an opportunity to enter into banking, which she took to just learn more about banking, and then moved into the capital markets, which she detested because of the rampant greed that she found herself surrounded by. She then walked away from a very highly paid professional job and spent the next 3 years-ish, few years, travelling the length and breadth of Indonesia, which is a very large country, visiting the villages, staying with the indigenous peoples, and learning from the village elders. At a particular time of need in Indonesia, she was summoned back to head the Jakarta Stock Exchange. And what she says there is actually everything she learnt about development, which she then tried to apply in the Jakarta Stock Exchange, she learnt from the village elders. From them, she learnt to listen, to learn to the needs of the people, not to impose and not to judge. So that whereas the view from Jakarta may be we help the villagers, Felia knows that actually it's completely the other way round. Their wisdom, their knowledge of sustainable development, their knowledge of resource management, their knowledge of listening is what helps us. And that is where you can see the complete connection with what other speakers have been saying. In her life, Felia does not acknowledge barriers. She does not acknowledge barriers between, for example, her career in banking and her considerable work with NGOs. She's very, very much concerned with anti-corruption in Indonesia and with democratization. She has also always practiced her spiritual values in her work life as much as she can. Another thing to mention about Felia is her co-authorship with Ines of this beautiful book called Hints, which is on sale at the reception desk, which is stunning photographs of Ines doing yoga combined with contributions from both of them about their own personal journeys. And before I hand over to Felia, I'd just like to say that her experience of her life has often been that a crisis will present itself which completely changes the direction she thought she was going in. The need to respond to the crisis changes the direction. And through that change of direction, a totally new opportunity for education presents itself. So I would just like to read one contribution that she's written in this book. I am awoken for a brief moment. Is that where my journey wants to take me? The challenges of the traverse are so painful, no longer where I wanted to go. But how is it that I do not suffer? I do not suffer. I look at pain as pain. I look at many things as they are, in the perfect image of the One. Dare I ask, are we then his perfection?
I'm speechless. I've decided not to feel embarrassed about what you said about me. They're all true. I've spoken in many forums, but this is definitely the most challenging. We studied in Bishara how to anticipate, how to be a good servant. What is it that I can bring to the table today? With banking, how boring can that be? But let me try to make it a little bit grounded, if I may say so. But on the first day, I was looking at the outline again, and I tried to connect all my experiences. I can only talk from my experience then again, with impact on the global crisis, it says in the outline, to include self-knowledge as an essential aspect in this conversation, to stay positive, and of course, what Wadud had to say, you are responsible. So, before I dive into the stories about my banking experience, I need to put you in the context of what Indonesia is. I don't know if you probably heard about Bali. I don't know if you have any idea about Indonesia. Indonesia is actually a concept. Young people back in 1928 decided to get together and have one land, one language, one nation. They decided that. They found a common thread. And the common thread was obviously in answer to the colonial powers at the time, the Dutch. They found a common thread, a common interest, a common ground. So that evolved, and Indonesia became independence, or declared independence in 1945. So, more or less, it came as an illusion of a country. And we are still within that illusion of being one country. Some of them are really adamant about it, like the military. and I'm just happy to be there. It's a fantastic place. It's very diverse. Let me give you an idea. Its geographic spread comes from all the way from the tip of Western Europe all the way to the Russia, Ural mountains. So that's quite a long spread. There's about 220 million people. Culturally extremely diverse. There are about 10, 15 major languages. And plus, more or less, another 150 languages, not just dialects, but languages. So, but luckily, those young men back in 1928 decided to have one language, so we can talk to each other from the easternmost tip in Papua to the westernmost tip in Aceh, if you've all heard. I'm sure you've heard about the tsunami. So that's really putting it into context, what Indonesia is about. And of course, blessed with natural resources, but I'm sure you've heard the book about the natural resource curse. It could be blessed or it could be a curse.